Welcome back to another edition of Lawton's Legacy. I'm going to tell you we have so many great things going on in the city, and this is our opportunity to share just some of those with you. There's no way that we can take a video and make a video of everything that we have going. But this city is active and full of life, and great things are happening in Lawton, Fort Sill. And at the top of the list are Kids First updates. And we've created the Department of Community Enrichment. And underneath that Department of Community Enrichment are some Kids First things, like parks. Our parks is absolutely a community enrichment. And so much is going on with our parks. It's really exciting. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But the other thing that is involved in the community enrichment is the Department of Safe and Clean Neighborhoods. And that's real exciting, and it's a program. It's basically a one-year program, but when you add in the time to educate the public, we're probably looking at a year and a half, don't you think, John? I forgot to tell you, John's here with me, as always, our city manager that's doing such a great job and making all of the things that the citizens vote for and the council put the rubber stamp on. It's John and his staff that make it happen. So we're excited about that. John, can you tell us anything about the formation of the Department of Community Enrichment and the Department of Safe and Clean Neighborhoods under that?
Sure, Mayor. So essentially what it is, it's an amalgamation of the old Department of Community Services and the Department of Parks and Recreation. So now those are kind of merged into one organization, and that is the Department of Community Enrichment. And so we feel this isn't just an organizational change, although it is that, and there's some rebranding associated with that as well, but we feel like this organization is going to be better postured to more comprehensively and more holistically address our issues of neighborhood blight, the issues with our parks and our park maintenance, and making sure that we truly make Lawton a community of choice where families thrive and where kids thrive.
Amen. That's great. And words are important. I like the name Department of Community Enrichment, because that's really what it's about. That's what our Parks Department's about. That's what our Department of Safe and Clean Neighborhoods about. And changing the name from Neighborhood Services to the Department of Safe and Clean Neighborhoods reminds everybody what the job really is. It's really about creating safe and clean neighborhoods where kids can thrive. Thank you for bringing that up, John. So under our Parks Department and our CIP, one of the biggest things that's happening is the Aquatic Center. And John, why don't you tell us where that is and kind of where we stand, and are we still on target to get open as scheduled?
We are on target. They poured the concrete for the pool and for the lazy river. So our director actually walked the lazy river and kind of did a dry run, if you will. And so all of that is on schedule, and it's progressing very nicely.
All right, very good. That's exciting. And I saw a aerial video of it. I can't remember what that was of, but it was pretty neat.
Yeah. So the vendor was able to get a drone and get that video from above. So very nice images.
John, let's jump down to the Kid Zone, because that's one of our parks projects too that's real exciting. Because after 25 or 30 years, I forget exactly how long the Kid Zone has been there, put together by the Ambucks, by the way, and they raised money. So many community organizations and individuals turned out to build that. What a fun time it was. But weather takes its toll, and it's just worn out and fallen apart. And so we're going to put up a new Kid Zone, and it's going to be even better. Now, we weren't able to save the pickets, and the pickets were people that had donated to the original Kid Zone. But weather takes its toll on the wood, and it takes its toll on the pickets as well. But also a lot of kids had turned out, and they'd made ceramic tiles with their handprints in them. So cute. We're saving those. That's still going to be out there. You can still go out there and see that. It's so important, and they'll be there as long as they last. It's very important that we maintain that heritage. But the Kid Zone, what is our schedule for getting the new Kid Zone open, John?
So our schedule for getting the new Kid Zone open is mid-June. That's our goal. So we'll have that major structure in the park, and you know, Mayor, great point on Kid Zone. Such a wonderful community venue. We want to restore as much of it as we can. So we're going to have the big play structure replaced and open by mid-June. And one thing that we are definitely going to try to do, no promises because funding is tight, but we're going to try to get that asphalt parking lot right there. We're going to try to pave that, because that's one of the real limitations with the park, and has been for several years, especially when there's been inclement weather and there's been, you know, rainouts and there's problems there. So we're gonna try to address that as well and pave that, so it's just a more enjoyable overall experience at the park.
So in June we're going to open the Kid Zone, and before the 4th of July, which sounds to me like June, we're opening the Aquatic Center in the Lazy River. Gee, there's a lot to do in Lawton Forest Hill.
There is.
I was driving by the park not far from my house, Prairie Park, and I noticed that they're over there doing work. I have no idea what they're doing, but they're over there putting flags out, getting ready. We're really making a difference in the parks across the city. You got any input on there? Is it just general playground equipment replacement?
Well, Mayor, as you mentioned earlier, the voters have spoken, and they approved the CIP extension, and for the park and for park maintenance, that extension is indefinite. And so we're taking that mandate and we're getting out in our parks and we're making the necessary improvements. And as you also stated, weather takes its toll. So there's a lot of things that we have to do on an annual basis to make sure that our parks are safe and enjoyable for our children and for other members of our community. So we're out there and we're making a big push to make these venues where our community comes together and we, you know, see and meet our neighbors and do all the good stuff that happens at parks. So that's what's going on in our parks.
You can't be a great city if you don't have great parks.
Absolutely.
And because of Propel, because you voted for Propel, we're making that change. So parks are very important, and we're glad that we're getting a lot done. And that's a different funding source than the budget. And you've been hearing a lot about the budget. And I think everybody knows by now that the city's sales tax income is down about 5%, if I remember right. Isn't that right, John?
Yes.
And so John has been dealing with all these budget requests. You know, it's not any different than our house. Something happens and our income goes down, but we have all these things we want to do, and we have to set our priorities and come to that. John, talk to us a little bit first about the budget challenges that we've got this next year and how we're dealing with them. And then after that, John, I want to jump into explaining the different funding pots we have and how that works.
Absolutely, Mayor. So our municipality, the City of Lawton, as well as all municipalities in the state, are funded primarily by sales tax. And sales tax is down about 5.5% from what it was last year. And sales tax is down all over the state of Oklahoma this year. So we're forced with that with that dilemma. And so as a result, we're having to lower what we can spend money on. When revenue coming in is lower, you have to reduce expenditures. So there was a lot of angst and anxiety when we talked about this a few weeks ago on the council floor about us being in a deficit situation. And let me just be clear, the City of Lawton is not operating in a deficit. What I was referring to are budget requests that come in every year from our various municipal departments. And at the time in the process, those funds request exceeded what we anticipated our revenues are going to be for next fiscal year by $40 million. So since then, we have had many of those discussions with some of our departments, and we have reduced that number by $11.6 million, and we're going to continue to do that. And another point I also want to make clear here is that by law, by state statute, we are required to pass a balanced budget by the end of June every year, and we will do that. The City of Lawton will pass a balanced budget. We're going to have to figure out just what that's going to look like, though, and that is going to include some hard discussions and some difficult decisions. But we're going to ensure that we pass a balanced budget. In terms of different funding pots, primarily as I stated, we get most of our income from sales tax. We also get user fees and such as our utility bills and other things, other services the city offers. We get fees for those, and then the city also gets a small portion of ad valorem, but that's through the CIP. So those are the main funding sources that the city receives.
I think one of the main things to note is what the citizens vote on and vote for, such as your Propel projects. That money cannot be spent on the regular operations of the city. And the citizens years ago voted for a 2 cents sales tax that goes into the operating fund, and that's what we operate the city off of, along with utility income and some other fees that we get. So there are different funding sources, but once the citizens vote for projects, those projects happen unless the money doesn't come in. But we've structured it so that we have some leeway in the CIP to make sure that even if money doesn't come in, we have a significant contingency there to make sure we get the projects done. Not so with the operating budget. With the operating budget, we have to make adjustments every year to make sure it's worked. For the last several years, extra income has been coming in, and we've been able to get caught up on a lot of things, such as some mill and overlay projects have been paid for largely through the operating fund. This year we'll probably be looking at more into the CIP for that program because the citizens voted for a 1/4 cent for streets, and so that money has to go to streets, and so we'll be working on that. So that's a little explanation of how the budget and the CIP work. So good news on roads. Of course, we've got 105 and 25, and that's still on track to happen. As typically happens, we might run a little bit over, not get done by the end of the year, but we'll be working on the project anyway, and we're going to get 105 done. Now, some good news I was told the other day, the state project that's happening on Rogers Lane, it's a safety project. Years ago, they did a safety study. That's 3 or 4 years ago. This is the work that's being done to make Rogers Lane safer, to cut the number of accidents that are happening. That is scheduled to be completed in the next few weeks, so we'll see Rogers Lane opened up completely, and I'm excited about that. Then I was also told that in the next 30 to 60 days, Gore Boulevard from 67th to 82nd will be completely opened up, and that's exciting news as well. John, tell us what's going on with 38th Street.
So the 38th Street, the RFP has already gone out. It's been awarded, and we plan on starting construction next month, mid-April. So the year's flying by already. So we're really excited about that. I know that has been a project that has been talked about for some time. That probably one of the worst stretches of road in the city. So it feels really good to finally be getting after that and getting that taken care of for our citizens.
And people wonder why that's taken so long, and that's an ad valorem project, and ad valorem funds flow slower and you have to borrow at a different pace in order to keep everybody's taxes even over the years. So finally we're getting them.
And there's also, in addition to that, there's also been some difficulty relocating utilities and some other things. So there's been some construction type issues as well.
The good thing, by the end of the year, we should be open, ready to go with a brand new 38th Street from Gore to Lee Boulevard. I'm so excited that our police department has started a special victims unit. John, talk to us about that special victims unit and the special event that we have coming up on April 3rd associated with that.
Absolutely, Mayor. So, and just to be clear for our citizens, so LPD has always had the internal capability of investigating sexual assault crimes, but this is represents a rebranding of that unit, and we felt like it was really important that we did that, not just to change the name, but to let individuals know that if you come to the City of Lawton and you commit these crimes, they're going to be aggressively investigated and they're going to be prosecuted, because we take these crimes very seriously in our community. So on April 3rd, we will be doing a ceremony unveiling this new unit, and we'll have a state level representative come down and speak to us and give us some words of wisdom. And we just felt like this was a really important thing to do. And this is occurring during Sexual Assault Awareness Month in April. So we felt like it was a good time to do it.
All right, that's good news. And I really like what I see, because, you know, while we do a lot of things through our youth programs that are designed to keep kids out of the system to cut crime long term, our police department is more suppression. Well, they do some prevention too, but they're largely suppression. And through that suppression and through this unit, crime has been cut about 35% in Lawton over the past half a dozen years. And so that's pretty significant decrease in crime in Lawton, Fort Sill. We're excited about that.
Absolutely, and we hope that this unit is not, as you mentioned, is not just an actual deterrent, but a general deterrent as well, because the word will get out that we're investigating these crimes and we're prosecuting them.
That's right, and prosecuting them vigorously.
Right.
I think that's very important. John, let's wrap it up talking about the weather, because it's that time of year when we're watching the skies. How are our storm sirens doing, and what's going on with all of that and the testing?
So, Mayor, I think a lot of our citizens are aware that we test those, or we test our storm sirens at noon on every Monday. This coming Monday, March the 10th, we will test them both at noon and 1. And I'm also happy to report that we replaced a storm siren recently. Yesterday, matter of fact, we replaced the siren out at 11th and Coombs. It had been out for a while, but we just felt that was very important to get have everything up and running as we enter into storm season.
Right, so many things happening in Lawton, Fort Sill, as we continue to get even better at being a community of choice where families thrive, focusing on our kids first. It's an exciting time to be in Lawton, Fort Sill. Thank you for joining us for this edition of Lawton's Legacy.